Today, we're doing some injectables for a former model. Hi guys, my name is Dr Sarah Tonks. I'm a cosmetic physician in London. Very excited to be with you today because we are going to be treating a very glamorous young lady who is a former model. And one of the reasons why I am so excited is because she's got these fantastically hollow temples. And I really want to share with you guys exactly how much filler we need to use sometimes to get a nice result in the temple. It literally eats product. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're working with. Check out these temples. Look at those bad boys. She's got a fantastic face, really beautiful, stunning, but she's lost a lot of volume in the temple area. And some people just do. It's just one of those things that happens, especially if you're quite slim. We do have some fine lines and crow's feet here. And just generally the skin quality and texture, well, it could be a little better. You see, we've got these vertical lines here on the lip as well. Because her bone structure is just so good, so amazing, we don't really need to do too much in terms of changing that structure. It's more going to be about improving the skin quality for her. Let's just take a look at her smiling. You can see that these tiny lines, they sort of radiate all the way down the cheek here. And that's because the muscle, which forms a ring around the eye, like so, the orbicularis muscle, when you're smiling, it contracts down, and sometimes it can actually be quite a big muscle fanning out all this way here. So that's why sometimes you will see these lines right there. Plus as well, if the skin's quite thin, it's very easy to pull on. Okay, let's have a look at what we did. So we started off with the old classic bit of Botox. We're treating the frown lines, the forehead, around the crow's feet, the bunny lines, and the chin. We're also going to do the DAO and the platysma. You know, it's really interesting. I think now, much more so than before, I find that I'm doing a fair amount of lower face Botox because a lot of people, they really like the very subtle results that you get with that. It's not the same as doing Botox on the upper part of the face. It's a much more subtle result. Let's do the temple. I could not wait to get my hands on her temples. I think in the end, we did something crazy, like 4 mils per side. She has very tricky temples because she's so slim. She really doesn't have much skin covering them at all. So if you put quite a viscous product in there, you may see a demarcation line. So we had to use something which was a little on the thinner side and just use more of it to make sure that the end result was very smooth. Okay, so now we're doing a small micro droplet technique in front of the ear. And the purpose of this is to just give a little bit more lift so that the face goes in more of a V shape. Again, because she's so slim, we have to use a much less viscous product to make sure that it's not visible underneath the skin after the treatment. I'm now doing some forehead filler. Again, I've switched to the 32 gauge needle as I like to do. And although she's got great cheekbones, she has lost a little bit of volume at the front part of the cheek. So we're going to go ahead and fill the front part of the cheek first, and then move on to the angle of the jaw. We're going to switch over now to using a cannula, and we're doing the cheekbone area. This is again to give a bit more lift, a bit more vectoring, and we're going to use the same cannula on the chin crease and in the marionette zone. She's got these small vertical lines on the lower face and cheek, so I'm going to use a very fine product in there just to pick those out. And the purpose of this is more to make a skin improvement so that the skin in that area is not quite as thin, which means that you find you don't get the vertical lines ingrained as deeply. I've actually used Juvederm Volbella for that area. Now we're going to go and use some Juvederm Vol Light for the border of the upper lip and the vertical lip lines. The last thing I want to do is give her more bulk in this part of the upper lip, because, you know, sometimes when people treat this area here, it can end up looking kind of a bit like an overhang. You can end up looking a bit kind of chimpanzee-like. So you have to use something that's really fine there, and also balance it with doing a little bit of treatment just along the vermilion border. Now we're going to do some PRP. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you'll know that I like to use PRP in the under eye area. This is because it's a very, very safe technique and safe way to improve the quality and texture of the skin there. Sometimes if you use filler there, if the skin's a bit too thin, it's not strong enough to contain the filler and you can end up with puffiness. And you know that you're not going to have this problem using PRP. Now we're going to treat the lip, and I'm just treating the middle third of the lower lip with a micro droplet technique. So that's lots of tiny little injections all the way along the vermilion border. And I'm going to do the upper lip vermilion just in a more traditional technique. I've only used 1/2 ml here, so it is quite a subtle result. Okay, so let's check out our results. I think this is probably the most interesting part of it. So you see in the before picture where we've got the hollowness in the temple, can you see how the tail of the eyebrow is just starting to disappear around into that hollow? Now that we have filled them, you can see the whole eyebrow. See? Doesn't that look nicer? You can also see that we've got an improvement in the fine lines and general skin texture around the eye. That includes underneath the eye where we've done PRP. Look how much better the skin looks where it's a bit crepey here. See, it just looks a bit softer. Those lines are not quite as harsh. And the same thing in these little lines on the upper lip. See, they're a bit improved. So the reason I'm showing you this before and after smiling is so that you can see the eye area. She's kind of got her tongue between her teeth when she's smiling. So I don't have like an exact image of her afterwards, but let's just see. So you see, by treating the bunny lines, we've got an improvement in those lines here. You see, they're much more reduced. And you can also see that these little lines, which are radiating out from the corner of the eye, are also toned down a touch. And I think overall, there's just a general improvement in the freshness. Let's just have a quick look at her going from being static to smiling, so we can compare the two. Okay guys, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the video of me practically ladling the dermal filler into her temples. Join me again next week where I will be doing more of the same. In the meantime, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you like my stuff. See you later.